rough roads ahead.
You are listening to the Law Enforcement Pirate Radio Network. Radio Free Larry presiding.
You can run, but you can't hide.
Radio Free Larry.
All right, so they hacked my phone so that the always listening Google thing was on. So part of what they're doing was trying to get me to believe that there has to be some visual manifestation for them to actually be listening in, and that's false. So we'll use that opportunity as a teaching point, and they will lose. Well, because the system and the game will say that they won. I don't play the game, but the game's always on. So you don't need a physical manifestation of your microphone being on. And in fact, if they think you might know, they'll probably do that to give you the false thought. That's what the beast does. That's what devils do. That's what the spycraft and witchcraft in the churches and the governments are doing, as well as other religions. So here's the thing. And I'm going to use Victor the Good Boss because he's probably a good example. I'm not saying that he's corrupt or anything, but he could be. And then he becomes an illusion. He becomes a tool of Satan. So there's differing levels of that. He's probably a little bit liberal. He probably accepts legal aliens, but then he's not real. He's an illusion. You cannot fix the narcotics issue without getting illegal aliens under control, which means the number has to go way down. That's part of how they're doing this. And then, the Democrats know the deal. You can't arrest everybody involved because you can't try that many cases. I mean, there's money laundering in those communities everywhere. So if you're Vic and you're like, I'm the good boss, I'm saving everyone, but you're like, let the illegal aliens stay, you're not saving anybody. You're the reason they're addicted. You're part of narcotics being smuggled and distributed in our nation. It isn't a case-by-case basis. We're past that. Biden made it not a case-by-case basis. The Democrats made it not a case, and they got very rich doing it. The government's telling you about all this fraud, but what they can't tell you is the fraud that was constructed by the government so that it can never be found because there's no records that will tell us where this money went. So while you were trying to figure out how to live a better life under Biden, he was just giving free money out to anybody that speaks Spanish. You didn't even have to be an immigrant. You just walk in there and act like you can't speak English and tell them you need this much money, and you just got here from some country in Central America, and they gave you money. You could have been born in the United States, eat apple pie, drive a Chevrolet, but speak Spanish or speak even Swahili. Walk in there and go, well, let me see if I can get somebody to translate. Oh, he speaks Swahili. And by the grace of God, you were able to communicate that you needed $2,000, and boy, that was one hell of a barbecue and and party for that weekend, wasn't it? Bought some narcotics with it, bought some booze, brought some indentured prostitutes in that some immigrant boss was willing to let you have for the weekend for $1,000. So again, that's nobody that believes in allowing illegal aliens here is actually fighting the war on drugs or trying to move a real rehab service because the drugs are out there just to addict them again. I don't know how many years it'll take us to get it under control. I was telling you, I believe they were warehousing, and I still believe that that's true. So even somebody like Vic the Good Boss, if he's not like, well, we got to eradicate drugs, because I've been in this thing a long time, pill mills, and I was the one that said, hey, he may not have got my message. I don't know. Facebook did whatever it wanted. No, because they're bringing the drugs in. I know they were before Silicon Valley. Don't know what they're doing now. You know, Peter Thiel, the Christian. And again, I don't know if he is. He could be the biggest dope dealer in the world. That's how deep all the shit is. That could be how he made his money. Nobody cares, man. All he's got to do is be connected to CIA. Drop a couple gold bars this way. Drop some cash money that way. It looks like he's fleeing something. And just be an honest move that he doesn't want to be in a country as gay as the United States. I don't think Argentina's like gay. Little gay, but I think they still manly man gauchos. I don't know if any of the gauchos became gaucherinos, arenas. There could be a study out that it's a healthy place to live. I don't know. Could be any reason that he moves. Right. But I'm just showing you what the possibilities are. So again, if you're not, if you're like rehabbing and you want your nephew or your uncle off the street and away from drugs, and you believe in illegal aliens, I don't want to hear that they're innocent. Every illegal alien that committed a felony was innocent the day before. The system was built a certain way so we can control narcotics, control prostitution, control people that would murder people on a train just because they're on the train. And again, I was also part of foreign aid. I said, if you're going to control immigration at that level, we have a lot of issues of, what do they call that? The root causes of immigration, of illegal alienism, actually. Let's address those root causes. So you make a life better in that foreign nation. But when they did all this crazy stuff by letting them all in and paying them all money, we don't have any money to send for foreign aid. For the microloans and all the other things for them to have small businesses. Because in Mexico, you can get yourself a cart, and get, and if you can cook, have yourself a business. So anybody that's pro illegal alien is full of shit. They're making people sick. Again, illegal aliens aren't even safe from illegal aliens. But what are they going to say? Don't let these people in. And again, ICE protects illegal aliens that are victims of crimes. Now that you'll see the scam they got now. Everybody's a victim of a crime. Right? And they're not, of course, in some of these cases. So again, even Victor the Good Boss, if he's pro illegal alien, it's just the way it works. There's no fantasy world that the Democrats are making us believe they live in, because they don't. They know the scam. And again, I'm not political. I'm just saying you have to go. That's why there's a danger in California, because well, Karen Bass is pro-immigration, but she's also she's not over a certain line liberal, where she knows if she goes over a certain line liberal, it destroys everything else she does. But again, she is left of where I think she needs to be, but that's okay. Because I don't live in LA and I didn't vote her in. That would be tough if I lived in LA. What would I do if there was an election? I don't think I'd vote for Pratt. He didn't have a clue. I don't think there's anybody I want to vote for. Well, because I can't vote for that level of illegal alienism. I can't vote for somebody that hates ICE. Right. Well, the violence you saw coming from ICE was in response to the violence that was going on, and they were using psychological methods. That repetitive woo, woo, with their little sirens and their bullhorns. That's all psychological warfare to cause somebody to be violent and to make a mistake, just like they're doing out here to me. It's not a test of any proportion. It's not protection of anybody. It's what caused Preddy and Mrs. Good to be shot. So again, ICE is part of what Vic does. Without ICE, Vic would be less successful because there would be additional narcotics. And again, there's a mind. The more of the aliens we bring that make money off of that, even if it's only laundering that money, the less likely the mind will get rid of that type of money. That was pretty hard on the Silicon Valley, and they probably destroyed my life for it, but that's their problem, not mine. They'll go to hell for it. Because they were narcotics distributing, and they were sex trafficking. But of course, it's me that's doing that. No, the cops said that they tried to say I was a heroin dealer. And they still try to use it every once in a while because some cops wrote up some bullshit reports. Meanwhile, the witnesses were all narcos and their families. I'm telling you, that's how bad it is. Well, if I leave your community after you do that to me, it's not a victory for you. You're all consigned to hell. And God considers your communities just not worth saving. So again, I hope you enjoy the money. Because you're not going to get anything else from it. In fact, some of those locations are more dangerous than they've ever been before. So there is no way to beat narcotics. There's no way to keep people out of Kensington and other areas without ICE. And of course, because it's all immigrant-centric, or a majority of it, at a certain stage of the smuggling and all that, or manufacturing, although there are others. We have our own American people that do that. To compare the immigrant to that is bullshit. The immigrant doesn't need to be here. They need to go back to their country. We'll deal with the people that were born here. So ICE, believe it or not, is an intelligence arm of DEA. Right. And what are the other guys? Who's those idiots? What's their names? Oh, the Marshal Service, U.S. Marshal Service. They're an intelligence arm of their sex trafficking investigations. So ICE actually helps immigrants and helps other people. So when they tell you DHS is this, DHS is doing that. DHS and ICE and all that, they stop sex trafficking. They free illegal alien young ladies, sometimes young men that are being trafficked. And they attempt, to say, hey, let's get this person a green card. And, it's not always possible, but again, if they can do it, they do it. Right. So again, the world that the Democrats are telling you exists doesn't exist. And but for the rioting in the streets and the psychological warfare by the rioters, Freddie and Good would probably be alive. Even the recruiting and the radicalization of Freddie and Good, that's a spycraft psychological warfare effort. Actually, like 10 years ago, you could have got some of those people committed before they show up at Delaney Hall. I have nothing against the real system, but you use everything corruptly against me and with criminal intention. Right? So again, that's a different story when they use it that way. Thank you, Mary. No, ICE is the unsung heroes of those type of investigations. I mean, Dummy won't say anything because, every once in a while, I'll speak on that type of thing because we need to get the information out there to wake people up. Thank you, Larry. No, they can't. A lot of the money, as far as the immigrants and the NGOs, they can't tell you where it went. As far as doing a forensic, I mean, some, but a U.S. citizen could have easily walked in there, pretended to be from another country, telling you had 6 kids and a wife and a sick grandmother, and got a payout. The Democrats are waging psychological war against the United States military in its efforts in Iran. A couple decades ago, they probably would have been thrown out of the House and Senate. I mean, they're over the line. And that's the only thing that went wrong, per se. Again, I wouldn't say it went wrong, but we would have been more successful if the Democrats would have just shut up. It'd probably already be over. Now, the only question is, were there any physical meetings and deals? Possible go-betweens. Well, again, you're not going to get your uncle off the street or it'll be replaced with somebody else's uncle. Unless we get the illegal alienism under control. and then restart immigration at the level of immigration. So, Zorons think, well, it came from the immigrants. Great. ICE protects immigrants. How many became citizens last year? From like 800,000 or something? The Republicans don't like to use the data of helping immigrants. But the Trump administration has protected immigrants better. Again, I'm not speaking about illegal aliens and criminal immigrants and criminally illegal aliens. They're just not. What are they going to say? They can't come out and say anything. They'll be killed. Daughters could be raped to send a message. Or drug boss could come in and take his daughter sex prisoner. Right? All right, this is coming out. I think it's the Dominican gang. I don't know if the spirit of this kid is here or what. The Triniteros. Oh, we just got another big case here. You know what this is payback for? Actually, this is Massachusetts. Right. But what's that guy in New York that was killed? Oh, it might be him. He may have led you through that investigation. Because he's in the afterlife now. He doesn't like the Triniteros. A 15-year-old Alessandro Guzman Feliz. The ICE protects that guy and his family. And if protecting him sends him back, the problem is, you have to understand, we were deporting people all along, but what's been done over the last so many years, the Biden administration made it exigent beyond where it's ever been. The Democratic Party ruined the psychological effort against Iran, which could have caused them to fold early. Years ago, you'd have been probably arrested for it, at least put out of the House and Senate. Right. The incident, Alessandro Junior Guzman Feliz, Junior's a big Spanish nickname. Junior was mistaken for a member of a rival Trinitero faction after fleeing into a bodega on Bathgate. We saw this in a video. Bathgate Avenue in the Bronx. He was dragged outside and attacked with knives and a machete. He collapsed just a block away from St. Barnabas Hospital. And as to denaturalizing people, this is it. This is why. Right. If any of them get their citizenship. Where's this one? Here's one in Brooklyn. It was in April 2nd, 2026. Trinitero gang members plead guilty to murder and violent carjackings. The Department of Justice, ICE, the Trump administration, is protecting immigrants. The Democrats won't. They want you to be in bondage to those type of people and be afraid. Now, we got 26 Trinitero gang members charged with RICO conspiracy related to 5 murders in Massachusetts. Who are the victims? Immigrants? Democrats not going to protect all of you. Don't make it so confusing in those communities that nobody can see what's going on. That's what they want. That's what the narcos want. They want it so thick with people who don't give a shit about your sister on narcotics and being sex trafficked that they can hide everything. That's also part of why this is all working. Why the DOJ is able to find it. Number one, they're looking. Who knows what the Biden administration was doing? But number two, they're thinning the herd. And now there's an incentive to provide information. It's not a bad deal. If you go against Triniteros, you could probably get a new life, protection, and all that. Right. That's what I was hoping that what's her name would do, Kristi Noem. That was the one thing we didn't. Maybe she did it a different way, and I think they did, but I wanted them to highlight those programs. Now the problem is the corruption's out there, and again, you could do a thing on the whole program and then say, "Hey, don't defraud us." We find out it'll be worse for you than anybody else, right? It'll be worse for the person that actually committed the crime, or theoretically committed the crime. Now Guatemala's in, and that was my big worry. So that's like, a bucket list. Guatemala was my bucket list. Was on my bucket list. Well, I know he's a little bit of he cares about people. And again, the idea is if you care about people, you have to let the soldados take over every so often. Right. So I was afraid he would be a little bit too left of center to allow us to operate, but that's good. That's great, actually. And the idea is to create a community where people don't find the life of crime. Again, it's possible. If we reduce the money, if we reduce the crime, if we reduce the minds of people that accept crime, the minds of people that create crime, then those communities will heal to a certain degree. Let's see what we got here. Oh, my stuff's here. I just bought some. My legs screwed up, so I like giving a good tip, because it's like being out on the street and giving somebody money. So I'll order, like right now, my legs screwed up. I ordered food in, as far as like a supermarket order, and it's here. So I'll do like an express delivery, which is I don't know how many, a few dollars extra for them, I guess, and then I do a good tip. Because they're working, whoever they are, even though they might be illegal alien. with your uncle's identity. See, that's a part we got to get rid of all that. And again, the Democrats will say, "Well, you let everybody in here and it'll be okay." No, it'll be horrible. Anybody like if we had an open border, you could just drive across. Like I guess Canada used to be because it's not even that easy to back and forth from Canada nowadays. Right? There would be so many people put into bondage, and raped, murdered, sex trafficked. As soon as they stop for gas in the United States, there'd be somebody all on them. Right? The whole, all those border states would have, and again, they do now, but they would have these, these kidnappers essentially. They would abduct them whenever they, when it was initial states, they know they would come across. They see a woman they like at the gas station getting gas, and that's it. She's sex trafficked. That's really what would happen. I'm the seer, all of you. You all know that. You know that. You realize that, and you know it because you hate it that I am. And know it is what I was saying there. Play on words a little bit. All right. So again, even somebody like Vic and his name isn't Hesher, but Herring Dude, forget it, Chandler. Even Chandler, they have to realize that this is all part of an intelligent effort to get people off the street. And better yet, that they never enter the street. Like Chandler, I mean, he's into it. I mean, he's a good guy. I mean, he's got a great life ahead of him. I wish him all the best and all of them all the best. But the reality is, he should want to be the Maytag rehab guy, which means what? There's a Maytag commercials. I don't know if they're on anymore, where the Maytag washing machine and dryers were so perfect, so reliable that the repairman would just sit around all day because there was never any work to do. That should be the goal. The problem is people have secondary gains from people failing. A lot of reasons for that. Even law enforcement. Well, if I don't arrest somebody this week, so they start willing people to arrest. And that fails a person's life maybe even 20 years ago. Put them on narcotics 20 years ago so you can arrest them today. Or put them on narcotics 20 years ago so you could rehab them today and be the hero of rehab. So you have to watch your own minds. So what Vic and Chandler and Crash, what they should look to in the future or hope for and pray for is that one day they walk out in the street and they're like, there's nobody here. Where'd they all go? So again, it could cause you to be sad saying, we used to get 25 people a month and now we're only getting 2. That means you did well. That means ICE did well. That means DEA did well. The day you walk out into Kensington and they're not there, where'd they go? We won. God won. Visualize it. Maybe it'll happen. No, I don't know when it would be. It could be a year. It could be 20 years. Maybe 20 years down the road. You're all 20 years older and you walk out into the cities and it's really hard to find people to put into rehab. Years ago, some of the only ways that we would know people were using heroin is when a strong batch of heroin would come in and they'd overdose. I mean, you had some people, but prostitutes and stuff, they kind of, the Vice Squad and all that would know who who was using as a prostitute. But every once in a while, you get a strong batch in, and you find out how much heroin use was actually going on. So it's possible to reverse this thing. But you have to understand, again, you don't have to call up ICE and tell them, hey, I think this person's an illegal alien. And again, there is a difference between an immigrant and an illegal alien. That's why the term is used. It's not used as much as it used to be in derogatory ways. I think ICE and DHS grabbed it back as an official term, and it's kind of moved that negative connotation away. Well, illegal alienism is a threat to immigration on all fronts. And a threat to the immigrant. There you go. Again, the goal is for Mexico to shed that corruption and move to a normal economy. A lot of metaphysics around what may have happened. People hate Mexicans, but again, Mexicans hate people too. So they were actually becoming a power, a manufacturing power, and their workers were prized all across the globe. But again, who wants to have to deal with the narcos when you're running a business or running a manufacturing plant? So again, part of what needs to happen is you need to understand ICE is minimizing the playing field for the narcos and the sex traffickers. ICE is also an intelligence arm of sex trafficking investigations and drug investigations, including the large DEA investigations. So I got to get my food in here. There was a bird. Where I do my incense. There was a bird. At first, I thought maybe the deep state was. This is why they're not supposed to do what they're doing, because you gotta. It's another thing you gotta counter. Like immediately, I go, if it never happened with the deep state, I would say, oh, it's a bird trying to build a nest. But on my incense, I have an incense platter underneath my. I have a tall incense burner, marble one, and then I have a kind of spiritual looking platter underneath it. Well, the bird came in trying to build a nest in the platter. It's on top of a cabinet on my porch. So I had to actually move it, and then it stopped. Because I took it away once, and then it came back and put some more stuff there. And I'm like, I got to move it. And once I moved it, it looks like it gave up. Gosh, my knee is still screwed up. It didn't happen when you tear it. Usually, it's instantaneous, and then you kind of feel a weakness there. I don't think I have that, but I think I overstressed it. Strain. I guess they call it a strain, which can really be bothersome until it heals. But again, deep state came around, started eye cursing. Bam. I'm not in your lives, all of you. And I don't even think about you until you're in mine. And that's part of the key. Oh, he's obsessing again. Oh, he's having an episode. You'll see obsessing, and you'll see having an episode. If you don't want to learn by yourselves, something's going to have to teach us. You're very unrepentant. You still have the addiction to the gold bars and the cash money. Yeah, I mean, how CIA is bringing narcotics in. You just know, right? Or somebody affiliated with something like Rush. So how do you compete with that? I mean, you got your little piddly informant funds. And meanwhile, the narcos and all that corrupt CIA and dirty cops running around with gold bars and cash stolen from war funds. Because that's why they say I'm a sucker. Because how rich they all are, how easily they have money. But remember, everything like that is payable in hell. If you're a simple sinner, and the Republicans hate when I say it, but if you're gay or trans, you drink too much to excess, you what is the other some of the things, you steal something here or there, or you whatever it is. Again, being gay is listed as a sin because it was not the original intention, but back then it was easier not to be gay. And that's mostly because we've turned into a narcissistic society where if I'm a Christian and I see in the scripture that it says you're not supposed to be gay, then I will you to be gay because it makes me feel, gives me self-esteem and makes me feel better about myself. But of course, I don't do that, but they do that. So that's why there's forgiveness, because that's a certain level of evil that didn't exist. Right. Now, the question is on the LDS Church. Remember I told you the one guy walked up to me and said, we're not like, have you ever been to the other wards or something like that? I said, no, I've been to Salt Lake City, but this is the first attendance I've ever had. And he said, well, we're different. And the insinuation was they were more liberal. So again, that may have been hook, line, and sinker setup from the deep state. Who knows? You could have got a couple gold bars for that. Maybe some untraceable cash money. So here's an example of what they would do. I don't know how guilty the quorum is. Again, you're not going to make me believe that you pick the only prophets on the planet. Now, if you want to tell me there are prophets and there could be others, then I would agree. Now, I'm not going to agree that they're prophets unless they are prophets, but I agree to your system. Right. But if you're going to tell me you have the only prophets in town, I'll laugh you off the face of the planet and maybe a couple other places. But what they would do is the quorum of 12 would be indoctrinated unless they believed that, they had the gray morality down pat. Now, again, gray morality is actually black morality. And I don't mean anything by racial there, because that's the next thing. Oh, I know about black people. So they would try to create a little bit of gray morality. A little bit. And make them, but again, the key is to only let them see so much. So they allow it, but yet the underlings, they're taken to the next level. Next thing you know, you're running prostitution, narcotics distribution, smuggling, benefit fraud, everything else we see out there from your church. And again, there's also the human factor. Contracts to destroy people. You're definitely doing that. And then they'll go, well, he just doesn't understand. We're trying to help him. Bullshit. You're trying to help yourselves out of or help yourselves into what everybody else will be helped out of. It was no doubt from the arrests in the 90s, the late 80s, early 90s, that the deep state increased its operations. And that means they began arresting. Hansen was, based upon what I see in Hansen's life, he's always been deep state. So at a certain point, they said it doesn't matter if he's one of the old boys and old girls, or if somebody's an old boy, old girl, they're going to get arrested. Now, they didn't arrest everybody. But again, membership in the deep state at that point didn't guarantee you the right to spy on the United States. And in fact, Hansen may have been an overt stooge for all of them, like the fall person. Oh, we caught the spy. Oh, good thing. But they were all spies at that point. Not all, but well, they killed Bob because they were corrupt. They were afraid he would get too close. Right. So again, I said that years ago, and then recently they wrote a book on Ames. Right. That's what they're afraid of, going down like Ames. But apparently, when the investigator for the Ames case meets with the CIA, the compartment at that point, it's a compartmentalized investigation, meets with the compartment that he's going to be working with, I imagine, they weren't happy that they were there. But it's bizarre because, like I tell you, I try to be neutral with everyone, and you're all shooting off all these signs that you're criminals. The LDS did that also. They're big. Right. So the CIA got all hinked out when an FBI investigator showed up to investigate Ames, and even told them it was that. But apparently they didn't like it. So when Bob comes along, that's the last, the first thing in their mind, and the last thing that they wanted. Right. Too close to the gold bars and the cash money. Somebody put Bob in to go over there, and it wasn't that little girl. I'll tell you that. It was a long-term psychological operation. And I believe the Iranians were manipulated. Again, they're pieces of shit, the ones that did it, but I believe there was some manipulation from intelligence assets in the United States to trigger them into offing Bob. That's like I said about Israel when I was down in Israel. I said, you had all those years to psychologically alter the playing field with the Palestinians, and you chose not to. Again, but that guilt only goes so far. You have to understand that both nations were wrong, and to a certain degree still are, but Israel's a little bit righter than it was, and Palestine's a little bit wronger than it was. You can't, after October 7th, you can't expect Israel to just say, hey, we'll give you your own territory. Well, because they're going to have to invade you and take it all over again when you attack them. It doesn't make any sense. Right. I was for some sort of Palestinian territory, but what I didn't know that I found out is that the Palestinians weren't being properly represented in the Knesset. So I would have spoke about that. But when I spoke about splitting Israel up, I didn't say it would be along the lines that you have now. That's the first part. Right. Or had been, The second part is that there should be some oversight entity. It can't be, it didn't appear that total independence would make sense, but yet I said we're not even there to make that decision. The Palestinians have to show a government that's acceptable. They still don't have a government that's acceptable. You think we're going to give a nation to Hamas and Hezbollah? You got to be nuts. So again, Israel needed to work the civil affairs better. Again, Olmar's plan didn't say turn it over in 2 days. His plan was to build, again, with Bush and Condoleezza Rice, and my Facebook has been destroyed from back then. But the plan was to bring, I understand it's an FBI file somewhere. Yeah. Was to bring that government on. I mean, I thought it was great. They had some women. They made judges. I said, this is going to work. We're going to teach them how to do the judiciary thing. And then they have to do the police force has to be, up to snuff. So once they became that, it may have become a moot point at that point. If you said, hey, here's your representation in the Knesset at a level that is respectable, they may not have wanted to. It wouldn't even really make sense. I mean, except for the Hezbollah Hamas argument. So again, that was always going to be the sticking point. And again, the PLO theoretically was going to reform, but it was having issues. And again, the settlers, I knew as soon as they did that scam with the settlers that it was over. I mean, people like Ben Gvir and his buddies, they hold a little bit of culpability in all that. Well, because they're using anti-spycraft, anti-peace spycraft. And anti-peace psychological warfare. So again, this is really funny because the Trinitarios just kept coming up. Especially that incident with the young guy. It was horrible. Nobody should have to walk down the street, whether they're an immigrant or not, and have that happen to them. Why does the Trinitarios exist? Because of unchecked illegal alienism. Whether they have American citizens in it or not. Right. So again, ICE plays an important part in keeping people from becoming addicts in Kensington and anywhere else for that matter. All right, that's it for now. Stay peaceful. Praise God in all that you do. Praise God.